and welcome to our Survivor Circle today. I'm so pleased to welcome back my good friend Kiesa Kay and her amazing guest, Robin Landsong. I'm very pleased to welcome both of you, and I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So I will turn it over to you, Kiesa. Welcome to you both.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Becky. I really appreciate the work of Survivor Space and Zero Abuse Project in providing healing tools to survivors. And I really appreciate you and your specific work here. And today, for transforming trauma through creative expression, we have a really special guest. She's dear to me in more ways than I can say, and I've been honored to read her excellent book, her memoir, Loving Bravely. Robin Landsong. Robin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Kaisa.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Now, you have had a great deal of deep trauma in your life, and yet you've healed in such deep and beautiful ways and dedicated your life to helping other people heal. Would you tell us a little bit about how you first heard sound and songs as healing?
hmm Yeah, and so first, I just want to appreciate everybody who's contributing their life force, their vitality, to reminding us that trauma can be that point where we get broken open to know compassion, to know our resilience, to know our strength. And I like to say that we trauma survivors, we're not broken people. We are broken open, and we can be some of the most potent agents of change in the world because we know what's needed. So, yourself and Becky and everybody who's part of this project, we're paying back, paying forward what maybe we've been given in our own healing journey. So, so I use singing medicine to help myself and help others in their transformation, in their embodiment. And so much of everything I teach is about coming home back to our sensation, back to our authentic emotion, because that's where we get to be in the juiciness of life. That's where we get to take responsibility for ourselves, our choices, and transmute that which wore us down to becoming the fuel of our passions in life. So you asked a big question. So I'll go a little bit briefly into my story.
Yes, but after that wonderful beginning, I'd like for all of us to take a really deep breath and just take in the energy of what you just shared. I think it's beautiful. And I
hmm
want us all to kind of ground and center. Breathe in, hold the breath, breathe out, and just really accept and open our hearts to the message that you have for us today and to the energy work that you're going to be doing for us today.
Yeah.
It's born from a place of trauma, and yet it emerges into a place of infinite light.
hmm And and one of the things we were discussing in our preparation for this is that it is being together. It is reuniting with ourselves in community that is one of the most potent agents of change. And so Gabor Mate talks about hard things don't necessarily become trauma or post traumatic stress if we have community, if we have witness. Um, so, so that's the real key part of my story too. Is so when I was 8, I was growing up in a home that was quite abusive, and what always intrigues me about that is what happened in generations before that made it so parents lose or get misguided on their natural instinct to care for their young. All mammal care for their young. And then what happened in human beings, war, poverty, oppression, that a parent doesn't care and protect their child. Like there's something generational that's built it to be that point, unless there's particular mental illness for that person. So I was growing up in a home where there was that generational neglect, abandonment, violence. And what happened is that in my neighborhood, there was a couple houses away, there was a very unsafe house, and it gathered very mentally unstable, very people who did not have their greatest good showing up. And so it was post-Vietnam War, 1977. I have reasons to believe that the man who spotted me as an unprotected child was most likely a military-trained man and unhappy with his life as a civilian. So he spotted me, and I walked home from school. He abducted me. My life was in danger at every moment. He was quite a psychopath. And he took me out of the country. And I'm going to interrupt myself for a second. I'm going to do the very briefest version of my story, and you can find it on my YouTube channel. That's the longer version, so that we can really discuss how to heal. So he took me out of the country. I did not understand that he was taking me to the Rhodesian War. Again, 1977, it was the height of the Rhodesian War. And he assaulted me, broke my ribs, ended up giving me to another man who abandoned me in the bush. So again, 1977, height of the Rhodesian War, my chances of surviving in the bush by myself, either from extreme soldiers or wild animals, was really low. I ended up being picked up by some of the extreme soldiers. And here's the important part of my story, is the people who took the risk to save my life when they didn't have to, when it was a risk to them. So again, this war is very complex. It's a three-sided civil war. And one of these extremist soldiers chose to save my life because the other extremist soldiers wanted to kill me. They wanted to shoot me on the spot. He took the risk to go against them, to take me out of there, and he dropped me off at a village that he thought would be sympathetic to a white child. Again, summarizing, they took me in. They didn't have to. They could have just left me alone. It was a risk for them to take me in because the white government could have accused them of abducting me, and the extremist soldiers could have accused them of siding with the enemy. So it was one of the women who chose to take me in as if I was her own. And so there's a word in a lot of African cultures, Ubuntu. It's spelled like Ubuntu, but it's pronounced Ubuntu. And it's I am because we are. And
Yes.
this leads to many women parenting children that are not their born children. And sometimes relatives will even exchange children for a while so the child can have a different experience. So she chose to extend this tradition to a white child and take me in. And I couldn't bond with my biological mother. She was not available. She was actually one of my more dangerous abusers. And so to receive mothering for the first time in my life, and the way she welcomed me in was to sing to me. So the other children in this village, also called a homestead, when I arrived to them, they were touching my hair that was blonde then, and my clothes, and touching my white skin. And understand that the racism, again in 1977, and still so intense, they had probably never interacted directly with a white person. So for them to kind of be like, what's this little child about? And so they were the first ones to welcome me in. They put black ash on my white skin. And one of the eldest girls told a story that I couldn't understand. It was in Venda. But I got the gist that she was saying, and she came from out there and she came to us now. And so by the time she was done, it was the first experience of belonging that I'd ever had. And so they ran off to play, and my mami Atan, she was calling to me, singing to me. So I'm gonna do some of that welcoming singing for you right now. Showe, yeah. yam ne yam na yo yam na ye yam mo we yam. So she mothered me, she took me in, and I felt like this is my new life. This is where I belong. I didn't understand the magnitude of the war. I ended up wandering too far from the village, which wasn't very far. Um, I was spotted by a soldier, and I was actually shot. The bullet grazed the top of my head, and I crossed over and I had a death and return experience, otherwise known as a near death experience. So, again, you can watch the whole video, and of course, my Loving Bravely book will be released in September. Um, and so I received so much love, so much permission that the abuse I experienced was not my fault. It was the confusion of the adults that were supposed to be caring for me but were instead harming me. And so that's,
I am. I am because we are.
yes,
I am because we are. How beautiful.
yeah.
How beautiful. And it feels to me like when you're singing, your voice takes on a huge resonance and strength, and it encompasses me, it encompasses your listeners. When you're speaking, there's such a gentleness. It's like being embraced.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's intentional. Do you change your voice as you're doing it, or does it naturally flow in different ways when you're singing? Are you accessing a different space?
Yes, I'm really asking Divine Source, what do the people I'm with right now, everybody on this call, everybody who will visit this later, what do they need? What medicine do you need? And so Divine Source sings through me what the medicine that is needed right now. And so it
Yeah.
comes through kind of the repertoire of what's been given to me in this lifetime. And so it is different than the Venda singing that the women did for me, but it's really listening to the song that's in the land, the song in my heart, and again, the divine source medicine that is being called forth by the people who are present here today.
So the strength comes not only from you, but from the combination of the healing energies of all of us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. And so the more receptive people are, and also the more um, intact the land that I'm standing on, then the stronger it comes through. So if I go to a place where there's tremendous unresolved history, especially indigenous history that's been in conflict with, the people who are now living there, and that hasn't been addressed or acknowledged, it literally can choke my throat. I can't sing.
I know exactly what you mean. You can feel it. It's like you can feel it in your feet. You can feel it through your body.
Hmm.
You
And
you, you have amazing intuition. Of course. How is that a survival skill for you?
oh, that's such a great question, and I really love to address this. So, so when we're kids and we're surviving an unsafe situation, we are going to make use of our best strengths to make it through. And so I happen to be born highly intuitive. It's just part of my makeup. And so I would hyper vigilantly read all the adults to try and predict, what do I need to become to survive this situation? So, and of course, many of us kind of leave our bodies, often termed dissociation. And what I want to say about that too is sometimes that can be pathologized in the psychology world. And one of my craniosacral therapy teachers said, this is a beautiful strategy in all mammals.
Yes.
It's not personal, it's biology. All mammals will leave the scene of pain and suffering. And we will also go into freeze or dormancy to try and make the situation less dangerous for ourselves. So I really like to emphasize this in my teachings that freezing, going into that parasympathetic dormancy, is actually a more common response because fighting back against the aggressor, against the perpetrator, would often increase the danger, increase the retaliation. And so my hope today is that everyone listening can lift off the shame or guilt about not fighting back, because your nervous system, not your personality, your biology, made the millisecond decision that the best way to get through this situation is to go passive, is to go dormant, is to dissociate. And then the beauty of our transformation, the magnificence of our healing is making a new choice, is coming back into the embodiment, coming back into our agency, the power of our voice, the potency of our creativity. And that is the antidote or the remedy to having our biology choose to go into dormancy, is coming back into the breath, coming back into movement. I just said to my dance teacher, I no longer need to do therapy. I go to dance retreats, and in particular, partner dance retreats. So I am ready and dancing in relation to my own self and with others. And that's not something I could have done early on. I'm 55. I started my healing process at 19 years old. And so, again, I really just want to honor every person's pace and their developmental stages and your readiness. So, the first time people presented to me the breath practices and kind of embodying through breath practices, I wasn't ready. I was still in survival state, and they were suggesting that I breathe deeply. And the magnitude of what came up with a deep breath was more than my capacity at that beginning stage.
Mhm.
David Trevelyan has a really excellent book. Um, I can't remember the name, but it's right now, I think it's Mindfulness and Meditation. And so he's talking about educating meditation teachers that when you have a group of 10 people in the room, somebody is going to be working on trauma content. Somebody is going to be having an activated nervous system just by breath practice, just by turning inward. And that sometimes the greatest compassionate act is to take a break from breath practice or take a break from meditation if it's beyond your current capacity. And
Mhm.
and I love that movement, exercise, eating a clean diet, dropping into learning about adrenal health and adrenal support are the ways to increase our capacity. So at this point in my healing process, I can rely on that I'm going to recover from getting triggered pretty quickly. Um, in working on the book trailer video, the other day I chose to research images to put in the video. So I was researching white soldier images online, which is like super risky with what comes up about the war. I saw one, I got super triggered. I could feel the brain fog, I could feel my face be numb. I stopped looking. I went to a creek, got in the cold creek for a bit, moved around, did some breath practices, and I recovered my mind state, my embodiment in 30 minutes.
Wow. So the natural world became your sanctuary, and you know yourself well enough to know when you're triggered and how to bring yourself back to your fullness.
Hmm. Yeah.
When how do you differentiate in that moment between the past and the present when your PTSD's been activated that way?
Hmm. Um, and so the key is body sensation. If I can no longer feel my face, if I'm kind of wandering around, if I'm clumsy, if I don't care, if I'm irritable, if I'm more judgmental, those are all keys that I'm activated into the trauma response. And I also want to differentiate trauma response from post traumatic stress.
Yes.
And so I don't consider that I have post-traumatic stress anymore. I don't have the nightmares. I don't have flashbacks. It's quite comfortable for me to be in connection with others and connection with myself. I still can get in trauma response, which is like a smaller bubble of what used to be post-traumatic stress.
That bears eloquent testimony to the work you've done over the years with your sound work, song medicine, and healing. It really bears eloquent testimony to that.
Mm-hmm.
We have we have two people here who wanted to receive some song healing from you. How would that feel to do that with us?
Lovely. And every time I get to give the gifts I was given by Divine Source, it changes me for the better. So giving is up leveling my resilience and my agency in the world. So it's always an honor to sing to people.
Well, if you're comfortable with it, would this be a good time to do that?
Lovely.
Oh, good. We and we have two people with us, Mercy and Dylan. Which one of you would like to go first? Mercy? Okay, Mercy, if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, Mercy, it's an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to see you here. And I'm going to be quiet, and Robin will do her. I want to say magic. Is that all right, Robin?
Sure. Hi, Mercy.
Hi, Robin. Nice to meet you.
And I always like to, if you're comfortable, where are you in the world?
So I am on the Tulalip tribe's land in Coast Salish territory over in near Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, great. I used to live in Olympia, Washington for 27
Oh,
years. Yep.
oh, I know Olympia. I went to college there and graduated from the Native Pathways at Evergreen.
Oh, I'm also an Evergreen grad. Excellent. So we've already got some bonding.
Yes.
Wow.
With the chance, yes. Yeah, and I did a lot of my training in Seattle.
Oh, lovely.
So when you check in with your body and your being, where would like to be sung to?
I think like my sort of my pelvic area, I get a lot of trauma in there. I
Hmm.
feel that a lot when I'm doing yoga and things like that. Um,
Hmm.
so that area and then the throat, just for the voice.
Hmm. Got it. Okay, so pelvic area and all the way up to throat, and even
Yeah.
maybe the relationship between those two, because anatomy wise, there's huge relationship and between pelvis and throat area. All right. And so, just some guidelines. I'm just going to listen to the land where I am and the land where you are, and the medicine song that's you were born with. And I'm going to do my best to combine all of those. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay. Say I am yo. Some am ne am wo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yo. Yam na yam he oh yeah yeah oh yeah yeah oh yam he na oh. So, Mercy, any emotion, sensation, images, rememberings that you want to let us know about?
I've been going to get acupuncture and doing work around my lower back, and it's been quite tight and tense. Sort of as you were singing to me, I got myself set up straighter in a way that's been challenging lately. Um, and sort of this sort of reluctance to receive that I haven't really been quite able to name lately, as came to the surface of like, oh, there's a reluctance to receive, you know, um, and to let it go came about, which was quite nice.
Oh, great.
Just things that, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. And you've named something so important, that kind of reluctance to receive, because of course, when we've grown up in unsafe environments or later in adulthood, receiving meant threat. And so
Yeah,
and that challenge in our healing process is that discernment of like, ooh, do I want to let down that wall, move into discernment, and decide, is this something worthy of receiving? Is this something I want to allow my nervous system to be affected by?
yeah, and it's beyond just like thinking and processing, right? Like it has this impact in our body. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. And so, I've sung to something like 17,000 people. And just when I do it live in person, there'll be times where I'll start singing to somebody who maybe didn't quite know what they were coming for, or, it's a new experience. It's ancestrally, we all sang to each other. Current in our modern life, culturally, we've kind of lost this singing medicine. We've lost singing to each other sometimes. And so their face will go into like, what the heck is happening? Why is someone singing to me? And then
right.
there'll be this kind of breakthrough moment where it's like, oh, you're singing to me. I get it. I remember this in the core of my being. So you name something very common. I appreciate that.
Very much. Thank you so much. I think in whatever side of we are in creating things, like oftentimes we seek this Western standard of perfection. How do I perfectly receive what is being created right now, right? And we get so caught up in that we lose the ability to be humble in a moment, and just to simply receive, um, which is like I think a gift all into itself. So thank you very much.
You are most welcome. My honor.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank,
Nice to see you.
thank you. Robin, you mentioned something there about the reluctance to receive. And you said that when we were in situations of danger or trauma, receiving was dangerous to us. Receiving the energy of that other person meant the harm would be deeper.
Hmm.
And so a large part of choosing to heal, having the courage to heal, is having the courage to open up to that energy flow with the
Hmm.
trust that it's not going to do harm.
Hmm.
I had
And
not, I hadn't thought of it that way.
so the primary key is opening to yourself first. Because
Hmm.
when we open to our own sensation, then we have the restoration of our uh-oh feeling, or of our repulsion feeling, or of our, ooh, this person's got icky energy, even though they're charming and other people are responding to them well. Is
Hmm.
that when we know our own body sensation through movement, through dance, through, yoga, that we get to our yes and our no way quicker, rather than figuring out our no 5 days later, 5 years later, 15 years later. We can feel our no on the spot. And
Yes.
that for so many of us, myself included, especially if people are highly intuitive or empathic, we tend to attract narcissists. And they're like, oh, you can help me heal. You can do it for me. And so
Hmm.
now, through lots of training and recognizing I grew up with narcissists, so that's my blind spot, or has been my blind spot, is now I spot it right away because I've watched tons of videos, I've educated myself, and I can feel the manipulation happen. And my gut says, no, thank you. And
Hmm.
so connecting to yourself first helps you decide who on the other people do you want to decide to connect to. And I'll add one more piece here. One of my favorite authors, Daniel Siegel, who write Mindsight and incredible books, he talks about our brains are anticipation machines. We are efficient beings. We don't want to have to recover from a distressing interaction again. So we will cut off connection in order to not have to recover from a distressing experience. But then our world gets really narrow. So again, that embodiment piece, that returning to your appropriate and authentic yes and no, makes it so you can still have connection with others who are kindred spirits. And doesn't mean we don't mess up and hurt each other, doesn't mean we don't overstep each other's boundaries, but it means we're interested in doing the recovery and the repair work.
And we're interested in doing it together in a connected way too, I think.
Mhm.
One of the things that's been a problematic result of the healing process, I guess, I don't even know how to say this, but my intuition is different. And I know you all understand this, but I will meet someone and what they're telling me, what they're saying might not be what I hear. I don't know how to express that exactly. And so it's like there's this undercurrent that in order to survive, I had to be aware of that undercurrent. But in daily interactions, sometimes it really gets in the way because someone really wants to present in a certain way. And it's not that I can see through them, it's that I see a different aspect more easily than I see the one that they're intentionally projecting.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And of course, we talk about I think it's 85% of communication is body language, vocal tone, facial expression. And so there can be just like the tiniest little muscle contraction around the eye or around the mouth that gives us all this information. And again, I'm going to bring it back to those who struggle with narcissism. Like they might have a little bit more fake smile, which is around the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
which authentic, heartfelt smile happens around the eyes. And
That's right.
here's a fantastic thing I learned from Stephen Porges, who has the polyvagal theory. When children do the authentic smiling around the eyes rather than around the mouth just to please adults, that pulls on the inner ear and we hear in a different way.
It's all connected.
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so for many of us, we had ear problems when we were kids. I was deaf for a good part of my childhood because I was so busy doing the fake smile and I never had the real, I mean, when I was out in nature, I had real smile, but I didn't do enough of the authentic real smile around my eyes to pull on my ear to change the health and circulation in my inner ear. So
Wow.
when we get into learning the biology around how our bodies handle lack of safety, we're brilliant. And when we don't do the trauma resolution for a time, it ends up resulting in health problems, as we all know.
Yes. Yes.
So to go back specifically to what you're saying, so you're listening to the centics of the voice. You're feeling energetically how much healing work has this person done and what is their capacity for authenticity? Or are they coping and giving me a facade because they're so brokenhearted or confused on their interior that they're afraid to show me their authentic self? And so and then again, this is another beauty of doing our healing, is that what we're sending out is coherent for people. Versus really early on in my healing process, or before I started my healing process, I was sending out such incoherent messages that people were misinterpreting me all the time. I always felt misunderstood. I was trying to desperately say I need help, but it wasn't what was coming through. What was coming through was I'm defended, get away from me. And
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't get the help that I needed sometimes. So it took a really refined person who could nuance beyond my defendedness to hear my calls for help.
Nuance. I love that's the perfect word. That's perfect. Yeah.
Hmm.
Would you like to meet Dylan and
Yes,
do this
please.
again?
Uh-huh.
Oh, good. Dylan, are you feeling ready? Are you feeling a sense of readiness?
Yes, I just can't start my video, I believe, until the host has stopped it. Yeah, so I think I need Becky to start the video up.
Okay.
And
Becky, I think we're ready to see Dylan. Becky,
There we go.
thank you very much. Thank you for doing that, Becky. Dylan, it's good to see you, and I'll back up so Robin can do her magic again.
Okay, great.
Robin,
And then,
so nice.
and then Kiesa, can you? Yeah, excellent. So you can mute. Awesome. Go ahead, Dylan.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for sharing this time with us.
Yeah, and are you comfortable saying what land you're on?
Well, I'm in Richmond, so there's a lot of a tortured history in Richmond, Virginia, in terms of the land itself, whether of native or indigenous variety or of the slaveholders who traded bodies along the river here. I'm in Richmond. I wish I could tell you which tribe land I'm on right now, but I can't. But I'm in Richmond, Virginia.
No problem. And interesting thing again, a bunch of my relatives were in Richmond, so I spent quite a bit of time in Richmond. I walked around there all when I was a kid, so another interesting connection. And so first of all, I just want to say, and this is kind of relevant to what Kais and I were talking about, is shifting our intuition from just looking for danger to looking for the beauty, to looking for the goodness, to looking for the brilliance in people. And so I can just sense a tremendous amount of strength and brilliance, and that you have a very, very unique mind, very unique brain. So I just want to say that first.
Thank you.
So when you check in with your body and your being, where would like to be sung to for some integration, for some bringing some of that strength through?
You asked this question earlier, and I was thinking about what my response would be, and I feel like it's cliche, but honestly, I'd say my heart. There's a hollowness in my throat, and in my heart, and I think that's probably where the best answer lies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is it okay with you if I say a little bit more about what I'm getting intuitively?
Sure, please.
So it's so common that when we've been through extremely stressful situations, that we'll hide some part of our vitality, often behind us, so that in kind of in a protection of strategy. And so what I'd love to sing to, if it interests you, is bringing some of that vitality that's behind your throat, behind your heart, back into your physical form, so that you have the continuity to engage that brilliance in the ways you like. How's that sound?
It'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, great. And so again, for everybody listening in the current offering and then also later in the recording, I love to help people bring home that vitality that may have gotten either compressed inside our body or behind our body in safe storage, and to bring it back so that we can express it and bring joy in our life and other people's lives. Namae-o. Namae-ai. Namae-ai-o. Yeah-yeah. Hame-ai. Hame-o. Hame-o-iyam. Hey, hey. Hame-ai-o. Hame-ai-ai. Yeah-yeah-I-am. Ho, ho. Oy. Yeah, yeah, my, ay, oh, oh.
Thank you for that. very much.
So, do you want to let us know about any sensation, images, colors, emotion, rememberings?
I think it was remembering a part of myself, perhaps, that I hadn't given as much time lately to remember. I think returning to the reasons why I do the things I do and trying to remind myself of inherent value beyond the parameters of others. So I think in trying to pull that energy from behind into the fore, it was about recognition of permission to allow that to occur, perhaps. And I guess the sorrow which stands before it sometimes is a blockage, which remains more familiar and comfortable as a identity marker at times than perhaps the things that got me in trouble when I actually shared myself. So I appreciate the energy which you sent me. I will hold that with me.
Thank you so much, Dylan. You just gave us so much wisdom. And I really love what you said about that layer of sadness becoming a comfortable kind of identity layer. And, and you weren't saying this, but just sometimes like even having the identity of a trauma survivor, it's it's a wonderful developmental stage. And I remember the day I was always having dreams that I was wearing t-shirts that were too tight. And I would like take one layer off and there'd be like another tight t-shirt. And all over and over hundreds of times in my dream, I was trying to take off these things that didn't fit me anymore. And I remember the day, and I was even like walking out from my basement on my college campus, actually, Evergreen, and like kind of stepped out into the light. And I felt like, oh, trauma survivor can become lower down on my list of identities. And artist, musician, lover of life, lover of nature can start to be the top ways I identify myself.
Thank you. I mean, I think that's been one of the biggest gifts as of late, and the work that I've done has been the opportunity to reprioritize the things that made me the person I was before I became something I wasn't or didn't want to be. So thank you. I really, the grace of your energy, even virtual, is profound. And so thank you for this.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I really appreciate and love you. Thank you. I think one of the things that Dylan said was, I feel more the person I was before. It's like we reach this inner core of our artistic ability, our ability to thrive, our ability to enjoy nature. We come back to that essential essence, and that becomes the larger element of who we are, in a sense. And you are an artist. You've done a great deal of beautiful work. In
Behind
addition to
me
being a sound artist.
is my this is my art printed on a towel. So I love kind of turning this way, and then I've got butterfly antlers.
That's lovely. It's absolutely lovely.
And so much of the art comes from my death and return experience, and just reminding all of us of our divine connection. And so again, everything I advocate is embodiment with ourselves, and then that allows us this even steadier open channel with divine source. And that movement, exercise keeps our body ready and feeding ourselves well, which of course is an incredibly complex subject with sexual abuse, with physical abuse, is that when we were growing up, we were learning how to walk, talk, breathe, and eat and sleep. And if we were unsafe while we are doing those developmental learnings, then of course we would struggle with sleeping, eating, breathing, and food is incredibly complex for a lot of people. So I just say blessings on wherever you're at with your relationship with food, and um, may you be able to take your next step in eating clean, eating whole foods, and treating yourself and loving yourself really well through food. I felt a bit tired and off this morning from working on my book project so much. So I just paused and was like, okay, I'm not going to be work productive, I'm going to be health productive. And so I juiced carrots and celery and
Mhm.
ginger and turmeric and cucumber, and I fed myself well. And now my brain's more alert.
Oh, that's lovely. I started drinking ginger, turmeric, and carrot juice, and the last time I went to get my eyes checked, it was better than it had been in years. And
Oh,
I really do think that's because of the ginger, turmeric, and carrot juice. I really do think it's because of making that leap. You
yep. Yeah.
know,
Feeding ourselves nutrients, decreasing inflammation is the primary healthcare.
we have one more person, Becky.
Hmm.
Becky, if you're willing, I was thinking that Robin had said she could sing to three people, and I thought maybe you would be the next one if you're willing.
This is Becky's voice. Thank you for that opportunity. I think I am going to cede my time to either of the two of you for 10 more minutes of discussion, or Kaisa, if you would like to be sung to. My partner is arriving home from work and my dog is reading him, so I'm afraid the background noise is going to be disruptive. So I will respectfully cede that opportunity to the two of you. But thank you so much.
That's all right. And that's another thing, Robin. Sometimes people aren't ready for it, or it's not the right time, or something like that. I'll find that when I need to do yoga. There'll be 1,000 reasons not to go to the mat. It's like you have to be ready to receive.
Hmm. Yeah. And that has all kinds of variables to it. And I do want to say too, we had discussed this before. I just had my album release, so we got about a month and a half ago.
Mhm.
So Roots Drinking Rain is my album. It's 7 songs and amazing musical accompaniment with my singing medicine. So that's either on my website for download or all the platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And it's 7 songs, and they're quite unique into themselves and to meet different moods and different needs. And then in a few months, I'll be releasing a singing medicine library on my website. So that will be a cappella.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I've been in this unstoppable creative productivity in the past few years. I moved to California after my divorce, and literally, I just have to go on a lot of vacations to rest because if I'm awake, I'm creative. And
If I'm awake, I'm creative. That's really being in flow. That's really living in flow. Now, we had a chat come up from someone who said she would like to receive singing medicine, but I'm not sure if you can do it without the visual or just in the chat. I'm not sure if that's a possibility even. So
yeah, if she can, looks like a feminine name. If you can just say where in your body and your being would like to be sung to in the chat, then I will do that.
thank you so much. It's a little different to ask you to do this, so I really appreciate you making this stretch, Robin.
Sure. And while we're waiting for that, I do offer the 5-person groups, and I have classes. And so I have a class coming up um, on praising what we loved and grief, and I have one that I love to do called Being Cherished, where I sing to whatever developmental stage needs to be sung to from embryo on up. Okay, so I see
Lovely.
lower right back, right ear, and heart. Yeah, I can feel that. Okay, so Cecilia, I'm going to sing to your lower right back, right ear, and heart, and all the connection in with those. And also, I'm going to add in your spine. Nime, 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 no, yo, nime, Nemayo, Nemaya, Noeyo, ya,
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that this is very special. Now, Cecilia, if there's anything else you want to put into the chat, that's
Mhm.
lovely.
And so for those who can't see the chat, there's hearts and prayers and stars.
Which is perfect. Hearts and prayers and stars. And I love how connected you can be, even on a Zoom call, and how,
Yeah, that's what really blew me away because I had an in-person craniosacral practice for 20 years, and there was actually a woman in Japan who emailed me and said, "I really would like a session. Can you give me a session through the phone?" This is a little bit before Zoom was so popular, and I was like, "Well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know if that's going to work." She was so insistent every week for a month. She was like, "I want a session. I want a session." So I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to charge you because I don't know if it'll be effective, and if you feel moved, then you can donate something." I loved it because I love figuring out what is healing in each person's cultural context. And at that time in Japan, I think it's been changing, she had to take a plane to find an EMDR therapist. She did not have any
oh,
local EMDR therapist. And I thought, well, I have 22 in my local town of Olympia. So I love figuring out what's the cultural context in which this person is doing their healing work. What resources do they have? What resources do they not have? What cultural norms are they having to go upstream? And what cultural norms are helping their healing? And I've been amazed at cultures where I thought family and connection and belonging were highly regarded. Those are some of the loneliest places because if you go against belonging nicely and you do something like healing your trauma or healing generational, then you get rejected. So I just want to honor all the places where people are not getting cultural support and are getting ostracized
or
from saying generational trauma is going to stop with me.
and while people are in that place of um, denial, then a lot of times the person who speaks out finds themselves very much alone. And it becomes all the more important to have a connected community of all of us who are surviving and thriving and creating together. It's like we need each other through those times as well. We really need each other.
Mm-hmm. And I also just want to really honor for those of us who have had to separate from our biological family. I left it home at 19 and I've never gone back. And it was the safest, healthiest decision. I didn't even go back for funerals. Like, my family was that unsafe. So, for those of you listening who have had to really separate, I honor your choice. I honor the gains and the losses that go with that. And that family is defined, in my book, by people that you feel you can be yourself with. That if you mess up, people aren't going to jump on you and they're going to just assume your good nature and assume you can do repair together.
And I honor that choice so much, even if it's painful in a way.
Oh, it's very painful.
Sometimes you have to release in order to come to a healing place, and sometimes you can come back, and sometimes no. But without that time of separating and focusing completely on your own healing, it's just too hard.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking down and I want to have another hour, but we've only got another 2 minutes.
You're right.
When I was little, I sang all the time. I sang about everything. I sang about making a sandcastle. I sang about everything. And your singing medicine has brought that back to me.
Oh,
And I
that's
think I
what's
may
beautiful to
start
hear.
singing about everything again. It's going to drive my poor dog up the wall, but I think it might be
No,
part of
your
it.
dog will love it.
I hope so. Yes, yes, that's the way I'm going
Because
to think. My dog will love it.
and the key is you're making vibration in your body and
Mhm,
see how far the vibration can be. At first, it might just be your throat and your lips. See if you can let it be
mhm,
your whole jaw. See if you can let it radiate to your heart. because vibration heals.
Yes.
Vibration brings forth the creativity, the
Mhm.
art, the the interest in feeding yourself better, the interest in connecting to other people who are vibrating, going to sound healings, going to um, constructive things that feel like a good match for you, and then eventually becoming a leader in those things. When we are, the shamanic traditions consider that when you graduate to a certain level in your own healing, it's this beautiful next leveling to become a leader in helping others' healing path.
Well, we're just at the end, and I don't know if this is something that you do. Do you have? I had this idea that maybe we could all mute ourselves except you, and you could sing us home. And we could, with all of ourselves muted, we could sing along with you from the
Yeah.
depths of our being. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, and that's what Zoom can handle too, is that there's only one person singing.
Yes.
Yes.
So, well, we can mute, we being me, I'll mute myself and then we can all sing with you if you don't, if whatever would be appropriate for the group as a,
Great. That sounds wonderful.
yes. Thank you so much. This has been an honor, Robin.
Yes.
I
And
greatly, greatly
I do just want
appreciate
to
you.
put the plug into my book is called Loving Bravely, and that will be out in September 2024.
And it is a fabulous book. You will be so glad you read it. It is such a good book. It is moving and it's healing. It's a deeply, deeply healing book.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I am, so I am, so I am, ne am yo, so I am, so I am. So hey hey oh.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you so much for doing all the gift and work you do in the world, for bringing people together, and that community of healing survivors is our family.